Have you ever felt like you were reaching out, offering your heart, and the person you loved seemed to slip further away the closer you got? If you've loved someone with avoidant tendencies, you know that peculiar mix of longing and rejection. It's like standing at the edge of a shore, waving to a boat that keeps drifting out to sea, no matter how much you call. At first, avoidants can be magnetic. They often appear strong, independent, put together. There's an allure in the way they seem self-sufficient, like they don't need anyone. For someone yearning for deep connection, this mystery can be intoxicating. You may have thought, if I can just love them enough, maybe I can be the one they finally open up to. But soon the cracks start to show. When conversations get too deep, they change the subject. When you need closeness, they need space. When you reach for them, they take a step back. And each time, without realizing it, you begin to shrink a little, trying not to scare them away. This dynamic is not random. It is the echo of wounds carried from long ago. Many avoidants grew up in environments where needing too much love, comfort, or reassurance wasn't safe. Maybe they had parents who were present physically, but not emotionally. Maybe they were told to be tough, to stop crying, to grow up too fast. Somewhere along the way, they learned that vulnerability leads to pain, that asking for love risks rejection. So they built walls. They became experts at self-protection. But here's the part that's so important for you to hear. Their avoidance is not about your worth. It's about their history. Their nervous system learned that closeness feels dangerous. So when you show up with your heart open, instead of receiving it, they retreat. Not because you are too much, but because intimacy feels too unfamiliar. And yet, being on the other side of this dynamic can feel like death by 1,000 cuts. The unanswered texts, the sudden withdrawal after a weekend of closeness, the way they seem warm one moment and distant the next. It chips away at your sense of safety. It makes you question yourself. Am I too needy? Am I asking for too much? Maybe if I were stronger, quieter, easier, they'd stay. Let me pause here and tell you something. You are not asking for too much. Wanting connection, consistency, and intimacy is not a flaw. It is a birthright. But when you love an avoidant, you may find yourself slowly twisting into shapes that are unrecognizable to yourself. You silence your needs. You celebrate crumbs. You cling to moments of closeness, like they're proof that maybe, just maybe, they're changing. And when they retreat again, you tell yourself to be patient, to understand. This cycle is exhausting. It's lonely. And yet, it's hard to break because the little glimpses of tenderness they give you feel so rare, so precious, that you hold on tighter. The first step toward healing is recognizing this truth. Avoidant love is not the same as healthy love. It's love filtered through fear. Fear of being known. Fear of needing. Fear of being left if they lean too hard. And here's the paradox. Even as they push you away, many avoidants deeply crave love. They long for connection. But the moment they feel it coming too close, their defenses scream, danger, retreat. And so, they repeat the same dance. Come close, pull away, come close, pull away. If you've been caught in this dance, you know how destabilizing it feels. You're always guessing, always scanning for signs. You learn to read between the lines of silence, to decipher every pause in conversation, to measure the time between their replies. You live in a constant state of vigilance. And this, my friend, is where the wound spreads from them into you. Because love is supposed to soften us, to make us feel safer in our skin. But loving someone who can't stay close can make you feel unsafe in yours. So before we move deeper into healing, I want you to breathe and remember, it was never about you not being enough. Avoidants carry ghosts from their past into every relationship. And unless they do their own healing, They will keep running from intimacy, no matter who stands in front of them. Your worth is not measured by someone else's ability to love you fully. Loving an avoidant can leave scars. Yes, but those scars don't define you. They simply tell the story of how deeply you were willing to love, even when it was hard. And that willingness is not weakness. It is courage. Loving someone with avoidant tendencies often feels like standing in the middle of a storm, but no one else can see it. To outsiders, your relationship might even look calm, maybe enviable. After all, avoidants can appear composed, independent, and charming. They're rarely the ones causing dramatic fights or loud arguments. But beneath that calm exterior, something quieter and more painful is happening to you. It starts small. At first, their need for space feels reasonable. Everyone needs space, right? So you tell yourself not to overthink it. You wait patiently. You excuse the delays and replies, the canceled plans, the moments when they suddenly go quiet after a weekend that felt magical. But slowly, without realizing it, you begin to adapt. You lower your expectations. You stop voicing your needs, because each time you do, it feels like you're too much. You start to celebrate the bare minimum, the occasional text, the half-hearted "miss you," the night they finally open up, like it's a treasure. This is the invisible wound of loving an avoidant. You begin to shrink yourself. You stop asking for the closeness you deserve because you've learned it only pushes them further away. You silence your voice so they won't retreat. You learn to live off crumbs of intimacy, convincing yourself they're enough. And here's the hardest part. The longer this goes on, the more you begin to believe a dangerous lie, that your needs are unreasonable. But let me remind you, needing consistency, emotional safety, and intimacy is not unreasonable. It's human. It's natural. It's what every healthy relationship is built on. Yet when you love someone who avoids intimacy, you're often made to feel like those needs are a burden. And so, over time, your nervous system learns to anticipate rejection. You become hyper-aware, always scanning for signs of withdrawal. You measure the pauses in their texts. You analyze their tone of voice. You try to stay 2 steps ahead, as if anticipating their retreat might somehow prevent it. But what does this vigilance do to you? It exhausts you. It erodes your self-esteem. It convinces you that love must be earned, chased, proved. This is the heartbreaking truth. In trying to love an avoidant, you may lose pieces of yourself. Pieces of joy, spontaneity, and authenticity. Because instead of being free to love openly, you're stuck performing emotional gymnastics just to keep the relationship alive. And yet, here's something important. You didn't choose this dynamic because you're weak or foolish. Often, people who love avoidance carry their own attachment wounds. Maybe you grew up learning that love had to be chaste, or that affection was conditional. Maybe somewhere deep inside, the avoidance dance felt familiar. Painful, yes, but familiar. And in that familiarity, your inner child whispered, maybe this time, if I love enough, I won't be abandoned. That's why breaking free from this pattern feels so hard. Because it's not just about the person in front of you. It's about old wounds inside you that get reawakened by their distance. But here's the hopeful truth. Awareness is the first step toward healing. Once you recognize that this dynamic isn't love, it's trauma reenacting itself, you can begin to reclaim yourself. Let's pause here. Close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time I felt truly safe in love? Have I been silencing my needs to keep someone else comfortable? Am I mistaking emotional crumbs for a feast? If these questions make your chest heavy, know this. You are not broken. You are not unworthy. You are simply carrying wounds that deserve gentleness, care, and healing. In fact, many people who've loved avoidance come out of those relationships with incredible strength. because they've had to confront parts of themselves they once avoided too. And here's where the healing begins, by turning the love you've been pouring into someone else back toward yourself. By realizing you don't have to earn consistency, it's your right. You don't have to chase love, it should meet you halfway. You don't have to silence your needs. They're valid, and the right partner will honor them. Loving an avoidant may have left scars, yes, but scars are not signs of weakness. They're proof of survival. Proof that even in the face of rejection, you kept loving, you kept hoping, you kept showing up with an open heart. And that is not something to be ashamed of. That is something to honor. Because here's the truth. While understanding the avoidant can bring clarity, true freedom comes when you stop centering your entire heart around their walls and start centering it around your own worth. 1. Reclaiming your voice. One of the first steps in healing is learning to speak again. For so long, you may have silenced yourself, avoiding expressing needs, holding back emotions, shrinking desires, all in fear of being too much. But healing asks you to practice the opposite, to voice your truth. It doesn't mean yelling or demanding. It means gently affirming, I need consistency. I deserve to feel safe. My feelings matter. At first, this feels terrifying. After all, your nervous system has learned that honesty leads to rejection. But with time, and sometimes with support from therapy, community, or journaling, you begin to see that your voice is not a weapon. It's your compass. It doesn't push love away. It guides you toward love that's real. 2. Turning love inward. Here's the paradox. People who fall for avoidance often have the biggest hearts. They give and give and give, hoping to crack open the walls of someone who can't yet receive. But what happens when you redirect even half of that love inward? You start to soften your own edges. You learn to comfort yourself in the silence instead of waiting for their reply. You discover rituals like meditation, walking in nature, or journaling that soothe the ache they left behind. You build friendships and communities that reflect back your worth, reminding you that intimacy doesn't always have to be romantic. It can be woven into the everyday bonds that sustain you. And here's the beautiful thing. The moment you turn inward, the dynamic shifts. You're no longer waiting for crumbs. You're baking your own feast. 3. Breaking the cycle. Healing also means daring to break the pattern, because without awareness, you might unconsciously repeat it, attracting avoidant partners again and again. But now you know better. You've seen what it feels like to live on emotional starvation. You've tasted the exhaustion of trying to earn love. Breaking the cycle looks like this: recognizing the red flags early, when someone withdraws at every hint of intimacy, when every need you express is met with distance, choosing not to chase, not because you don't care, but because you respect yourself too much to settle for half love, saying yes to partners who show up, consistently, vulnerably, even imperfectly. This doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes your heart will still long for the avoidant. That's okay. Healing isn't about erasing desire. It's about choosing not to be ruled by it. 4. From surviving to thriving. The deepest shift in healing is moving from survival mode, where you're anxiously monitoring someone else's emotional availability, to thriving mode, where you are grounded in your own worth, no matter how others respond. In survival, silence feels like punishment. In thriving, silence feels like peace. In survival, you chase after love that runs away. In thriving, you allow love to flow toward you naturally. In survival, you fear abandonment. In thriving, you know that losing someone who can't love you deeply is not abandonment, it's alignment. Because you were never meant to beg for love. You were never meant to shrink yourself just to be tolerated. You were meant to expand, to glow, to be met fully by someone who says, yes, I see you. I want all of you. 5. The gift of loving an avoidant. This might surprise you, but even the pain of loving an avoidant can hold a gift. That relationship, as hard as it was, may have been the very mirror that pushed you to see your own wounds. It may have cracked open the parts of you that still needed healing. It may have forced you to finally say, no more half-love. No more chasing. I choose me. And that is a sacred turning point, because when you choose yourself, everything changes. You attract partners who respect you. You set boundaries with confidence. You carry yourself differently, no longer desperate for validation, but rooted in your own sense of worth. And perhaps, one day, if you meet that avoidant again, you'll notice something new. Not a longing, not an ache, but a quiet gratitude. Because they taught you, through absence, what presence really means. Healing from the wounds of loving an avoidant isn't easy. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes courage. But every step is a step back home, to yourself. And when you finally arrive, you realize something profound. You were never too much. You were never unworthy. You were always enough. It was never about earning love. It was always about remembering that you are love.